Hey everyone, it's Natalie. So I'm going to make a quick video today. I'm going to talk about strictly only narcissistic husbands. The reason being is because the past videos that I have been trying to upload that are 20 minutes or longer, they won't upload. I've tried hundreds of times on both Facebook and YouTube. I don't know if I'm catching it when everyone's uploading, but literally I have not been able to upload any of my videos in about almost 2 months. Okay, so let me try this. So today we're talking about narcissistic husbands, and then my next video will be about narcissistic wives. So I've had a lot of requests on the husbands and wives, so let's get into it. So when you're dealing with a narcissistic husband, they really treat the woman almost like they're the king and they're the servant, and they think they can get away with everything from infidelity to even coming and blatantly saying, I'm getting a girlfriend and I don't care what you think about it. And then it leaves the wife stuck in a situation where if she hasn't worked in a while because she's been raising kids or whatever, she's financially dependent on her husband to live. And so what happens is the husband takes full advantage of that, and they will start treating the wife literally like a servant. If the house isn't clean by the time they get home, there's a fight. If dinner isn't on the table by the time he walks home, there's a fight. There's even husbands out there who say, even with children in the house, we're not eating until I come home. And sometimes they don't eat until 8, 9 o'clock at night with small children. And if the wife wants to give the children a snack or something like that, the husband will explode on them saying, no, we're eating as a family unit. They'll be fine. They'll survive. But what husbands don't realize is that children need nutrition all the time because they're growing. And the other thing that a husband will do is take control of the money. He'll take control of the family unit. He will say when and where a wife can go. He will blow up her cell phone, wanting to know where she is at all times. She has no personal life. She has no private time. When the children are crying, the only person tending to that child or children is the wife. The father will literally hand the child over to the mother and say, here, it's your problem. And this isn't only narcissistic husbands, but it's toxic husbands. The people that I have talked to that have been dealing with stuff is that their spouse is blatantly cheating on them, turning around even after the wife has proof and says, that's not true. They'll lock their cell phone. They'll say that the wife has no business looking on their cell phone. They'll take calls outside. They say they're working late and they don't come home till very late, saying that they've been in a meeting, and it's all lies. The wife can end up with an STD or even worse, HIV or AIDS, unknowing that she needs to be tested. And then when she brings this to the attention of the husband will say, you're the one cheating. Oh, I knew you were cheating on me. Oh, I knew it. Oh, now I gotta go get myself checked. And see, what a lot of people don't know is that when an STD is spread to a spouse, either one could present symptoms before the other. And so a lot of times, because females are a lot more sensitive down there, the female will, come to the conclusion that she has something. She'll go to the doctor and get tested and come home and accuse the husband because she knows she hasn't been doing anything. And the husband will say, oh, I knew you were cheating. It's you. Kind of doing this manipulation tactic of cognitive dissonance of everything that the wife is accusing the husband of. The husband turns around and throws a fit and says, no, you're the one doing it, not me. And it goes with the wife too. Wives are cheaters too, and will deny it. But remember, we're doing another video on the wife. And so when you're dealing with a narcissistic husband, I'm telling you right now, he's not going to change. And you don't deserve that abuse. the only thing that you can do is start preparing yourself for divorce. And, you know, I'm so tired of people putting the stigma of, well, if you break up, you know, if you get divorced, you're breaking up the home, the kids will be traumatized. But that's not correct. What is correct is the trauma that's happening in the house right then and there. The children are being more traumatized by the abusive wife or husband than they would be getting out of that situation and living a better life for their child or their self. Okay? So if you think that you can change your husband and his attitude and his actions and his infidelity and lying and all of this stuff, you're not. He's always been like this. I guarantee you he was cheating on you while you were dating. Okay? And I understand marriages fall into ruts and the sex life can go down and things like that. But somebody that is dedicated to their wife, dedicated to the relationship, the marriage, would say, hey, let's go to marriage counseling. And both of those people will come to that conclusion and agree on marriage counseling. But what I've found with narcissistic husbands or wives is that when one of the spouses is bringing up, let's go to marriage counseling, the spouse that is being deceptive is always the one that says, oh, that's just a crock. You know, they're just quacks. You know, they don't want to go and get things off their chest and confess to their wife, like, yes, I did this. I'm sorry. I'm glad we're in marriage counseling. Can we start over? Can we do something new? You know, and usually when you are in a loving relationship, things like that are not happening. So if you are in marriage counseling and one of the spouses is confessing to their misdeeds, and they're not being narcissistic and lying about it, usually what happens is the opposite spouse will want to work on it. That's why they're there. They know something is going on in the marriage and they can't put their finger on it, or they have proof either way, and they want to fix it. But narcissistic spouses will make up every excuse in the book of why they don't want to go to counseling. Or if you get them into counseling, they're still lying through their teeth. Okay? And you know they are. Okay? And so the best thing I can tell you is that you have to start distancing yourself from that spouse. You have to go and do things on your own. The problem with a lot of narcissistic husbands is if you know you're going to leave them and you want to get a job and you start preparing yourself, the narcissistic husband will not allow the wife to work. He'll make up all the excuses. Oh, we're just only going to be paying for childcare by the time you get your paycheck and this and that. And, you know, of course, they're in control of the money as well. So the women in this relationship just feel absolutely trapped. And so they have to continuously put up with this abuse from their husband, their toxic husband, because they don't know what to do. So what I can tell you is you can reach out to women shelters, women's hotlines. I don't really have all of their numbers right here to give to you, but all you have to do is a quick Google search, and they will get you out of that situation, and you can go into hiding and while you're there, get a job and set yourself up for success. And nobody, regardless if it's male or female, deserve to be in an abusive, toxic relationship when there is physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and what you tend to see what happens with some of these women is they become a shell of their self, of who they are, who their truth is. Because they are always pleasing their husband, that they have forgot about who they are and what needs they have. Because their needs are not being met. They haven't been met in a long time. And you can kind of see it when you're around people, how some women won't talk. They have their head down. The husband orders on the menu for them. They scold them in public. They call them idiots in public. They get in the car, and I've seen this. I've seen a couple in Walmart, and the husband said something to her. She put her head down, and I was walking out with them. And she got in the car with him. And as soon as she got in that car, he backhanded her like that. And I was so terrified for her. I called the police. I had their license plate. I gave it to them. I'm not sure what happened with all that, but it happened many, many years ago. And I've seen couples in the car arguing. I've seen them in public arguing. And that is because the husband is self-righteous. He's egotistical. He does not care what the woman wants or has to say. Her needs, her opinions don't matter. Only his does. And in this relationship, it's a very selfish relationship. And I am telling you women out there, or even men, because I will do it about wives. I'll do another video about wives. Get out and run as fast as you can. You don't deserve that. Don't stay in it because society says that you need to stay in it for your children. Your children are being abused too. If you're being abused, 100% the child is being abused. He's seeing violence. He's seeing manipulation. He's seeing emotional abuse. And when a child is brought up like that, they too will grow up to be like the abuser. Or they will grow up being the one that doesn't speak up for themselves. That's too timid to actually want to say what their truth is, what their opinion is, because they know with that figure, that toxic figure in their house, they know better. And so this is how this cycle of abuse happens. So you either have the child growing up like the abuser, or you have the child growing up like the abusee. Okay? And that is not healthy. Getting out of a toxic marriage is probably the best thing you can do. And I'm sure I'll get backlash and people saying, that's not true, that's not true. But coming from a home where that happened, I can tell you the best thing that could have happened before it all spiraled out of control is that my parents separated us as young children and had a healthy relationship with us where there wasn't bickering and fighting and authoritarian attitudes in the house. I would have been happier. I wouldn't have been so traumatized. Yeah, it's going to be hard for the child at first. But once that children are very smart. Once that child recognizes after they get out of that situation how much better and freeing the relationship is with both parents now. And sometimes the abuse is so bad that that child is not ever going to see that other abusive parent. You know, there's sexual abuse, there's mental abuse and physical abuse, and the court is not going to allow that to happen. And if that's happening to your children right now along with you, you need to leave. You need to leave. Don't stay in it because society says it's better for the children, because it's not. And no, by no means do I have analytics on this, but I can tell you as an experiencer that I much rather have my parents divorced before it spiraled out of control than have stayed in it for the children, for the children's sake. I think my whole life would have been different. I wouldn't have been traumatized or scarred the way I have been. And when you're dealing with this narcissistic husband and everything you do is not good enough and he's demanding sex when he wants it, even if you have children crying in the other room, and he's pretty much raping you. And yes, there is spousal rape. There is. You have the voice and the right to say no when you don't want to have sex. The problem is when you're dealing with a toxic and abusive husband, he doesn't care. He will force you to have sex, force you to do fellatio and things that you don't want to do. You know, and your children are crying in the other room while you're in the bedroom being pressured to have sex. And the trauma traumatized woman will just do it because she knows if she doesn't, there's going to be hell to be paid after if she refuses. And in a lot of cases, if a woman refuses, the man will take it anyway. And the woman knows if she doesn't allow this to happen, that the children will get beat or will get ridiculed, or she will. And you'll just be living like this until you do give it up, until you do have sex, until you give your will over to somebody else who is controlling you. Don't live like this, women. Wives, don't live like this. You have a voice. You have that freedom to do what you want. Don't you dare let a man ever make your opinions and decisions not valid, because they are. And when you're dealing with someone like this, like I said, it's really hard to get out of it because of children and finances, but there are ways to get out of it. And I've talked to many women, or actually seen a lot of YouTube videos on women giving their story, and how after they got out of that, how much happier they were, and just their whole life has changed, and that they actually found themselves again. Their consciousness is aware, their their mental state is better. And I suggest that if you're going through this, that you get counseling, and even if you have to secretly go somewhere and get it. And my other thing I would tell you is to scrap money and try to take out a little bit at a time as you can, and start saving and get a job as soon as you get a little bit of money saved where you think you can get a apartment. Go apply to jobs, and the day that you start your job, about a week or so before, you need to go ahead and get your own place and escape. You need to start planning this. And I don't suggest that you write it down anywhere, or delete numbers on your phone, because if you start doing that, he's going to get suspicious. So you have to do this very silently and quietly. But if you are in a situation where you can do it overtly, then you need to go as fast as you can. No abuse is worth keeping a family unit together, because you are damaging those children as much as you are damaged. And when you do go through this divorce, you need to tell the judge and your lawyer about what's going on, because somebody that is abusive should not be around children, period. You should never put your hand on a child, and you should never ridicule or criticize a child, because they are children. They're still learning things in life, bad or good, and hitting a child is not the way to teach a child, because all that's doing is teaching them abuse. You're teaching your child that if somebody is around them not doing something they like, they can hit them. That's why there are fights at school, in high schools and middle schools, because these people have taught their children that if you don't like someone or like something they're doing, you can just hit them. That's not appropriate. And then they grow up to have assault cases and charges, maybe even go to prison or jail, or they turn to drugs. And that's another thing, that when you're dealing with a toxic family, these children are growing up hurt, and they're going to start self-medicating when they figure out what drugs are, what alcohol is. So my suggestion, if you're dealing with a narcissistic man, is you need to get out. They're not going to change. And even if they go to counseling with you, they're going to lie through their teeth. And if they are open and honest, they're going to go right back to the way they were as soon as counseling is over. Okay? So if you decide that you do want to stay with your husband, an ongoing therapist or marriage counselor is what you need, because, and mainly because they're going to threaten. When you say, okay, when you're threatening him and saying, okay, I want a divorce, I can't take this abuse anymore, the other spouse is going to say, oh, I promise I'll change. Just go to counseling. I promise I'll change. But I wouldn't give it more than a few months before they go back to the way they are. Okay? Look, I'm going to end this because it's like almost 20 minutes, and I feel like this may not even upload. I'll do a video on narcissistic wives. I would say, you know, the Karens of the community. You know, there's a lot of women like that, and they treat their husbands like crap, okay, and their children. So I'm gonna end this because when you're dealing with husbands, there's going to be the typical narcissistic terms, the gaslighting, the cognitive dissonance. You know, the main thing about when you're dealing with cognitive dissonance and a spouse is they will always put the blame on you and never accept responsibility for their actions. They will never. Even if you have proof. Do you want to live your life like that? And the real question is, do you want your children to be in this situation? You're scarring them. Reach out for help. Reach out to family members or the community. Women's shelters. Your church. Reach out to them. They are more than willing to help. And that's all for today. I'll see y'all guys later. Bye-bye.